Guess who actually looks human for once? Not bad, not bad. I clean up nice, right? I think so. I actually just filmed to get ready with me, like doing this, and the before and afters are actually, they're not that bad. Also, you can still see how crooked my nose is, but that's okay. That's why I don't like this angle. I would much rather like film from this side because I think I look so much cuter than this side. Like I'm two different people with two different noses. Hi there. This is Grace Marino. Okay, my lips look cute in the mirror, but they look a little scary here. Do I just have ugly lips? Or do I just talk like this? Cute, right? Anyway, hi. My name is Grace Marino. I am your host, as always. Welcome to the Drink and Deconstruct podcast. Today, I finally have, this is the barcode for my library, so, because I did not want to give Allie Beth Stuckey any money. And then I realized I had so much fucking stuff to say, I wish I could write in this book. So, our next book, The Deconstruction of Christianity, that I'm going to do, I bought not only the book, but the study guide on Amazon so I can mark the shit out of them. And hopefully, I'm not making any money on this channel yet, but hopefully at some point in the eventually in the future, it'll be like a business expense. Anyway, I am here with a glass of rosé. This is my last glass, so I might switch it up or I might just switch to water because I have a couple more of these to film. I don't know if this will be one part getting through all of this or two because it took me so long to get through. My library lets you have like 4 weeks, I think, between renewals. And this has already come under renewal once. I'm not sure what date that was. If I can search my texts. February 23rd. So this needs to go back to the library like next week. And that's fine because I'm done with it. Thank God. Well, I didn't finish the last chapter, so I figured we could kind of do that together. This book infuriated me. It's 191 pages, including the introduction and the conclusion. I did read the introduction. Oh my God. So we're going to read a few things. I'm going to pull out some passages. It's going to be kind of a book review, more so like a content review, because I'm not so focused on her writing style, which is very juvenile, but like it's not bad. It's not amazing and it's not bad. There are a few things going into this that I think we should start off noting. They are my opinion. Everything that I'm saying is my own opinion about this book. This book is basically an insecure girl projecting her insecurity through a very thin Christian lens. Not super Christian, not super Christ-like, not super Bible-based. Knowing that this is You're Not Enough, escaping the toxic culture of self-love. So it's called You're Not Enough and That's Okay. We're going to read the front cover. This book is $25 US, by the way, and 34 Canadian dollars, which was at the time of publishing. Like, I don't know how that works because like the equivalency isn't there anymore. Like it changes minute by minute. I used to work at a bank, I know. And then people would call in and be like, how much do I need to write a Canadian check? I don't know. I don't know. Right now it's this, but tomorrow it could be something different. Anyway, we're told that the key to happiness is self-love. Instagram influencers, mommy bloggers, self-help gurus, and even Christian teachers promise that if we learn to love ourselves, we'll be successful, secure, and complete. But the promise doesn't deliver. Instead of feeling fulfilled, our pursuit of self-love traps us in an exhausting cycle. As we strive for self-acceptance, we become addicted to self-improvement. The truth is that we can't find satisfaction inside ourselves because we are the problem. We struggle with feelings of inadequacy because we are inadequate. Alone, we are not good enough, smart enough, or beautiful enough. We're not enough, period. And that's okay, because God is. The answer to our insufficiency and insecurity isn't self-love. It's God's love. In Jesus, we're offered a way out of our toxic culture of self-love and a way into a joyful life of relying on Him for wisdom, satisfaction, and purpose. We don't have to wonder what it's all about anymore. This is it. This book isn't about battling our not enoughness. It's about embracing it. Allie Beth Stuckey, a Christian, a conservative, and a new mom, found herself at the dead end of self-love, and she now wants to help you combat the false teachings and self-destructive mindsets that you may face. In this book, she uncovers the myths popularized by our culture of trendy narcissism, reveals where they manifest in politics and the church, and dismantles them with biblical truth and practical wisdom. Hi, separation of church and state. That is important. And also, like, conservative. Like, okay, so there are so many people who are like, your sexuality isn't who you are. Like, why do, like, gay people need to say that they are gay? Like, their identity is in Christ. So Allie Beth Stuckey is allowed to be a Christian, a conservative, and a mother, and that's her identity. Her identity is allowed to be rooted in her sexuality. It's allowed to be rooted in her political ideas, as long as she throws Christ's name in a little bit. This is what she says about herself. Allie Beth Stuckey, or like her little About Me bio, I guess. Allie Beth Stuckey is the host of the Blaze Media podcast Relatable, where she analyzes culture and politics from a conservative biblical perspective. She speaks frequently to college ministries, Republican organizations, Christian ministries, and businesses, and offers frequent commentary on Fox News. She and her husband welcomed their first child in July 19th, 2019. This is her first book. Ugh. Okay. She's already insufferable just from reading the introduction and like the about sections. I don't know if I could do this. This might be 2 pages or 2 parts just because I can't get through it. Also, my eyes kind of look pretty, don't they? This is going to be a video where it's really hard for me to focus at the actual camera instead of looking at my face. Because I never feel pretty, okay? And I feel pretty for once. We're going to dive in to her introduction. Right off the bat. When I was 7, I explored the idea of following in Britney Spears' footsteps. Then she talks about how she can't sing or dance. So that's not going to happen. And obviously, because it can't happen for her, that means she's not enough. She's not good enough to make it happen somehow. So stick with me. We all have a similar story. So we know exactly what she's talking about not being good enough. She talks about how like we lose our self-confidence as children. We start out thinking that like we can do anything and anything is possible, and then we realize we can't do anything and anything isn't possible, which is fine. I tell my son he can do anything, right? Obviously, my son cannot be a 6'8" black man because his dad's 5'8" and I'm 5'8". So, and we're very white, if you can't tell. So clearly not possible for him, right? That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing at all. Ugh. I hate these like false comparisons. It's not really a false dichotomy because it's not one or the other, but I mean, maybe it is, like it's either you do it or you don't and you're good enough or you're not, but it's frustrating. I'm already halfway through the glass of wine I poured, and we have literally just started. So basically she says, this is on page 2. And I already have, like, I was writing stuff down every page. I just got to the point where I was like, fuck it. I'll just open and find a page I have something wrong, like a problem with. So she says, a truth that we all come to terms with at some point in our adolescence is that we don't have what it takes for one thing or another. In other words, we're not enough. We don't have enough talent, a high enough IQ, enough coordination, or enough facial symmetry to do the things we were sure we would end up doing. Facing our inadequacies is crucial for appropriate development. Ugh. Like, this whole introduction just reeks of poor me. Like, I didn't get to do what I want to do in life, so nah. She talks about how you are enough is the constant thing she sees all over social media. I don't know which social media she's looking at or referring to, but women everywhere are constantly being sold beauty products and constantly being sold self-help courses and constantly being sold books to figure out what's wrong with them. So don't know what reality she's living in, but it seems like it is very heavily involved with Instagram and mommy blogs. I've never read a mommy blog. I'm a mom and I've never read a mommy blog because that sounds insufferable. Throws in her own little plug here. I host a podcast called Relatable, where we analyze culture, news, and theology from a Christian perspective. She talks about that's how she got her her inspiration to do this is because somebody asked what the Bible had to say about self-love, and she had no idea what the Bible had to say, so she had to go on this whole thing and came up with what she says are 5 lies culture tells us. And we're going to go through them because they're all chapters in the book, and I still have not gotten to the last lie. So we'll see what that one has to say, but it seems like it's going to be the worst. Save the best for last, aka the worst for last. But yeah, it just seems like this woman, I guess, because she's probably a little bit older than me, because she had her first kid in 2019, and I had my first kid in 2022. So she's probably like 33, 34, if I had to guess. Let me look her up. 32. So close enough. I'm 29. I just turned 29. So yeah, 3 years older than me. So it literally just seems like this person, this woman, could benefit from therapy. Like, girl, go to therapy. She said that this book took her, at some point in this book, she says that this book took her like a year to write. I don't feel so bad. I am writing a young adult novel, a fantasy novel, and I had the idea for it and wrote about 12 chapters of it back in 2019, and then I forgot about it. Well, I didn't forget about it. I ditched the idea because I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna be working at this bank forever and not doing what I love. And then I decided this year that I'm gonna make it happen. I have self-published a poetry book. This one I would like to get traditionally published. So I am rewriting it. All of the chapters I have written down, I'm typing out. So it's been a labor of love for these months that I was writing back then, and now it's been months as I've been rewriting. So this book will take like more than a year, and I was feeling very, very self-conscious about that, and now I don't, because if this is the quality of book you put out in a year, I will take 10. I will take 20 years to get this book out because of the quality that I want it to be, and I don't want it to be this quality. I'm gonna go get some water. I have been talking. It is hot. My head hurts because I have had 2 glasses of wine already and have a cup of coffee today, and I think that's it. So I'm gonna chug some water. I'll be right back. My water is very mad at me. Also, look how cute she is. There we go. Look how cute she is. I love her. Okay. Also, I think I bruised or broke my rib, and I'm a little bit afraid to go to the doctor. So anyway, she is super cute. I decided to be a little fancy bitch. It's just seltzer water, or sparkling water from my little machine, and a cut up lemon because I ran out of flavor pods, and my water bottle smells a little moldy. So I'm gonna pretend. Ooh, I love lemon water. Mostly just because I love lemons. And I love water. I love water. I drink only water, ever. except when not except when I film. I drink when I don't film too, but it's water and alcohol. Hardly ever drink soda. Definitely not like full calorie soda, full fat soda. That I save for if I ever go to McDonald's, which was once so far this year, and I went to Wendy's once. Not went to Wendy's once. I go to Wendy's more than once. I think probably this year, but I never get a drink at Wendy's except I was hungover, so I got a Sprite. But that was after my high school reunion where we were drinking all night. So definitely not, this instance, but also sparkling water makes me burp, which is probably why I've been having like problems with gas lately, but it's all right. Hot girls have tummy problems, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not, but Okay, anyway, this woman could benefit from therapy. She would never go because it's secular and blah, 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 blah. Oof, I just like this lady. And I barely know anything about her except what's in this book. So she basically says, we are the everybody gets a trophy generation. Like it's our problem. Like it's our fault. She said the Pew Research poll in 2019 found that millennials make up the largest number of religious nuns in America, falling far behind our predecessors in affiliation with Christianity. She does cite her source, which I appreciate because, that's a hard thing to ask Christians to do sometimes. That's a hard thing, to be fair, to ask anyone who writes a book to do sometimes, because there are a lot of questionable books out there. Oh, then she brings up Hailey Bieber, as if that's anybody's compass for morality. Like, she said, a couple months into my research, I came across a video on my feed for Hillsong Church. Again, Hillsong Church is not where we are getting our morality from. There are so many issues with Hillsong. And the issues she has with Hillsong are not like the real issues that Hillsong has. Anyway, where Hailey Baldwin Bieber gave a testimony of her faith. In it, she said, I think that every person has had that feeling that they are not enough for someone, but you are, because God took his time to create you and put you in this place. That's it, I thought. That's the essential lie young women are believing in this culture of self-love. Young Christian women even. The lie that you are enough. Ugh. Like every 30 seconds I want to put this book down and roll my eyes. And I literally last night, I was finishing up a couple of the chapters because I was like, you have to get this done. And I was reading it out loud going, who says that? I've never heard that. This isn't real. This isn't true. What are you talking about? Like every page at least once. It took me like an hour to get through a chapter. And the chapter is like 20 pages. She keeps going on about we are our own problems. We are the problem with ourselves. We can't be the answer because we are the problem. So therefore we cannot be the answer. The solution is in God's love. God created us. God created the universe. God created us, but we're not good enough because God made us not good enough. Okay, let's just break that down for a second. God created us. We're not good enough. We're kind of shitty, kind of awful. Why would God create awful beings so that he could be great? Or does that mean like if we were great that we would find out that God isn't? Like, was God insecure? Insecurity is not a bad emotion because Jesus felt insecure, I'm sure, because all emotions are human. You can't tell me that God didn't invent insecurity. I'm pretty sure God projected it onto the world, apparently, by her definition. God made you in his image, in his likeness, but you kind of suck. You're not enough. You are worthless without God. Okay, let's put that there. God created us in his image and also created us to be worthless. It either seems like God has like a hero complex or God is shit. And like, I'm not saying that, right? As like my opinion. I believe in God. And the problem is, as a deconstructing Christian and as I guess a more progressive Christian, and here's the thing, we're not enough for everything. I am not good enough to be a singer. I'm not good enough to be a pop star. But the world telling you to go for your dreams isn't saying go be a pop star. It's saying train, work hard, take the time, like get the critiques. If this is something that you are truly passionate about, make it. And if you're not good enough of a singer after all of those years, write for singers. Get in the space. Do something that like fulfills that desire in your heart. That's all. It's not saying like go be a singer, go be Britney Spears if you want to be Britney Spears. It's not what the world's saying, and I think that's what people like her hear. And then they get that idea and then it doesn't work out for them and they get bitter and then they project everything onto us. Because I don't know about you, I've been to the Grand Canyon. It's fine. Like it's beautiful, but it's not like, and then again I went to like it was an accessible trail that just kind of walked around the edge of it. Like it didn't go through the Grand Canyon at all. It was on the southern edge, probably because we came from Scottsdale. Have you been to the Red Rocks in Arizona? Like Sedona area? Oh my God. You cannot, like I can't look at that as a person and as an artist or wannabe artist or whatever. I can't look at that as an artistic, creative individual and look at it and say, nobody created this. Like this just happened. It's like the miracle of science. And that's why I'm not very science minded. And if you look at that and say, oh my God, the atoms and they had to form in this correct way. And that's amazing that the coincidences happened to put them in this part. Great. My brain doesn't think that way. I took so much science in school, but I fucking hate science. I like the testing things. I like the scientific theory of things, but like atoms, atoms never touch each other. So like technically I'm scratching my nose, I'm not touching myself. Isn't that weird? I like that stuff, but I don't like I like the facts about it. I don't look at something and see it as molecules and atoms and carbon and things like that, like a lot of scientifically minded people might. I look at something and see colors and shadows, and I see like clay, like I see a mold of like somebody took the time, like, and I know erosion, like I know the Grand Canyon happened because of erosion. I'm not dumb, like I do know that, but like I look at it and I say like Indigenous people have lived here for thousands of years. Like the culture and the religions that they have and what they believe, and that same sun is the sun that was shining on those people who originally lived here. And there are people who still, live in that region. And like, I look at that and I say, that's God. God put those people on this earth. And then you have white colonist Christian nationalists like Allie Beth Stuckey who say, fuck them. No, the world and God is not perfect, and people are not perfect. Of course people aren't perfect. Nobody's saying that, but like, you're not good enough. The enough is like a modifier. Like, you're not good enough. Like, not you're not good. You're not good enough. For what? Like, for what? If you say you're not good enough, that modifies whatever you're not good enough for the Olympics. Fine, but that doesn't mean you're not good as a person, that you're not inherently good enough. You're not good enough for love. You're not good enough for self-love. Like, I'm so confused what we're not good enough for. And this book does not explain it. We're just not good enough. We're not enough. And the way... Oh, it got stuck on a lemon. I was very confused there for a second. And the way Allie Beth rambles in this book makes it very evident to me that she was not good enough to achieve her dreams, or that she was talked out of them, or that she has deep-seated insecurities and that she hasn't gotten over them. And so she's like, I'm not enough, but that's okay because God. But really it's figure that shit out, girl. Like, you would be much happier even in your relationship with God if you understood why you felt that way. Feelings, it's so frustrating to me because like Christians operate solely on feelings for the most part. They'll be like, the Bible says this because I feel that the Bible is true and I feel God and worship and blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel the Holy Spirit. You feel that, great. But feelings are also bad and demonized when it's the left and liberals having feelings. I'm saying, like, feelings are not a bad thing. They communicate to you what your brain is trying to tell you, because our brains are basically like little computers, because God is good. And this is where I meet the two. And if you don't, more power to you. Like, if you are watching this and you are fully an atheist, great. I don't care. I can't even tell you where I lie, because I can't believe that God is their only God in like Hindu culture and I mean just like African tribe culture and indigenous American culture. Like, they believed in multiple gods. An Egyptian culture believed in like a sun god and a river god and a god of love. Egyptian or Greek. I said Egyptian already. Greek culture, Roman culture. Like, there are so many polytheistic cultures. And regardless of whether or not they are all describing the one singular God, like, I don't know. But I know that I look at the world around me and what I see is a creator, and I can in my brain mesh the two things and say, I am in therapy weekly. I'm doing like EMDR, CBT, like I am actually like very psychologically heavy stuff. I know what the DSM-5 says about like my conditions and other conditions. Not 100, I've never memorized it, but I've like read excerpts of it. I've read peer-reviewed studies. I've even seen how like specific things like alcohol and marijuana affect my bipolar. Like, I've seen that, and I can look at that and also agree that like God is amazing. God gave me the ability to feel these things. And at the same time, unfortunately, I have been manic, and it was great when it was great. And then you come down and you're like, fuck, I ruined my life. So like, I can't reconcile God in that, but I can reconcile that like there is a God. In my brain, it just makes sense. I don't know what I believe about the Bible. I don't know what I believe about Christianity, but I do believe in God in a very spiritual sense. Not in like a spiritual tarot card and getting out the crystals. I don't care about that either. Do that. I know my birth chart. I am a Pisces sun, Gemini moon, Virgo rising. Do I care and keep up with it on a daily basis? No. Do I have crystals because crystals are pretty shiny rocks and my brain says shiny and shiny is good? Yes. And also, do I believe that biologically I am afraid of holes because of safety reasons? Yes. I have trypophobia. It's terrifying. I like freak out. I get panic attacks. Sorry, I can't even like thinking about it. All of that. See? I have my little Pisces journal to write in. I haven't written anything in it yet because I don't know what's worthy of this very pretty journal. My son wrote in it though. Well, I wrote one thing that was like a therapy activity. So it was like a letter to somebody, but then I decided I would just type it out on my phone because I was going to send it to them. I did. It turned out okay. But my son drew. I should figure out what he's thinking it is and label it. I label everything he draws so that I know what he was drawing. Anyway, back to the book. I am 43 minutes into talking and 10 pages into this book. It talks about self-sacrifice, that Jesus loves you. Okay, so this I found funny. She said, and a lot of young women are looking for an alternative for good reason. The culture of self-love is exhausting. While we're telling ourselves we're enough as we are, we're also reading the next book. Just didn't know if anyone else caught the fucking irony in that, but okay. Listening to the next podcast or following. Babe, don't you host a podcast, or did I misread that 3 pages ago and in your bio? Oh, yours isn't the same? Because this isn't the same. Telling us who we are in Christ is not the same thing as telling us who we are in ourselves. It's weird to me that Christians can't understand that different people exist. I used to be that, so I could say that. Because I used to be like, well, I understand that you're an atheist, but that doesn't make sense because the Bible is true and God is true, and why can't you see the truth? It's a truth that you believe. Like, I genuinely have stopped believing in an absolute truth. Anyway, she says, I'm continuing listening to the next podcast or following the next 10-step plan to help us realize and manifest our enoughness by finding our best selves. But if we were really enough as it is, we wouldn't have to try so hard to convince ourselves it's true. This bitch, okay, she goes on later in the book, and we'll get there, probably. Maybe not in this episode, but we'll get there where she says, like, oh, I had this job and I wasn't good at it. And the way she makes it sound was like, I didn't try because I thought it would just come to me. That's not what being enough is. It's not like I am enough as it is. I'm just going to walk in and everything's going to come easily to me and it's going to be handed to me and I am perfect. Saying that you are enough for something, you are enough for yourself, so you are good enough to be loved, is not the same thing as I am perfect and everything will just come to me and go my way. Like, I don't know who's making these arguments, and if they are, please let me know. If you're like a Christian defending Allie Beth Stuckey in this, and like you're like, these are the examples, please, because I have yet to see them, and I consume a lot of Christian and atheist content, like, and some of my best friends are Hindus and Muslims, and I've never seen this ever. Okay. And I mean, if I do, it's kind of those people you look at and you go, okay, crazy. And I mean that in the best way. Like, I don't like using that word, but you know. Sorry, I'm heated. My husband's like, why do you do this to yourself? I don't know. I hope it makes good content. I think it makes good content. I like watching this content. Okay, we are 52 minutes into filming this. I have done everything and nothing in my brain. We've covered a few things, which is at least good. There's something that we've talked about, but I'm so heated. I'm like... So I just think it's funny. She talks about, like, you can't read books or listen to podcasts to tell you how to be your best self. Isn't this what this is, bestie? Like, be your best self in Christ. Kind of. Because aside from the introduction, like, God isn't... I mean, that's he's mentioned, but like, I wouldn't know this is a Christian book. This book is about good news. While the admission that self-love won't satisfy us may feel counterintuitive, it's certainly countercultural because I'm not like other girls. She didn't say that part. It also gives us immense relief. We get to remove this crushing burden of trying to muster up a love inside of us that doesn't hold up under the weight of life's demands. We get to rely on a sovereign God to be our sufficiency, our confidence, our guide, and our giver of purpose. It's so frustrating. I don't hate myself because of society standards. I mean, yes, there is like I'm not as pretty as the girls on the magazine. I'm not as skinny as them. Like, that stuff has really stemmed from, and like your parent, your relationship to your mom, if you're a young girl, your mom's relationship to her own body fucks you up too. I don't hate myself because of what the world has told me. I hate myself because the church told me that I should. And I'm dismantling that, or trying to, the best that I can. So, Allie Beth, thoughts on that? No? We're not going to talk about how the church fucks up purity, like with purity culture and everything patriarchal about church culture? And how this book tells you that you're basically a piece of shit. I'm not going to talk about that. No? Okay. Cool. So here are the 5 myths that Allie Beth Stuckey, in all of her biblical wisdom, thinks that the world is telling us about ourselves. Okay. 1, you are enough. 2, You determine your truth. 3, you are perfect the way you are. 4, you are entitled to your dreams. And 5, you can't love others until you love yourself. And that's the one that up until this point, I've not gotten to, because that sounds awful, because like that's just psychologically true. Like I don't understand that. And even the Bible says that that's true. Like love others as you love yourself. And she does touch that. I did read it a little bit. She does touch on that, how that is like self-preserving, and it is. But like, do you? That brings up a different argument. Okay, so love others as you love yourself, self-preserving. Like you're gonna feed yourself when you're hungry. Huh? Should we be feeding the poor? You're gonna home yourself and clothe yourself when you're hungry, and like you're gonna take care of yourself out of your own innate selfishness. We can't do that to anybody else. I'll be right back. I need more water for this. We'll probably get through chapters 1 and 2, like lies 1 and 2 in this video. And then next week we'll do 3, 4, 5 and then conclusion, which will give me some time to read 5 because I needed like another week to read it. So this is why I drink so much water, is because I get so fucking heated. It's made me angry. It just is. And like the self-righteousness that goes into writing a book like this. Allie Beth opens the first chapter with trauma dumping. So she basically thought, which is fine if it serves a point. This does not, though, in my opinion. Maybe Allie thought she did something here. Like maybe she's like, oh my God, this is like so relatable. Basically, she said that she broke up with she was in a 2-year relationship. 2.5 years. She was in a relationship with a man who broke up with her. They thought like we were going to get through college and then we were going to get married, or she thought that. And then he broke up with her. And so she developed an eating disorder and an alcohol addiction, which we'll talk about that a little bit. There is no shame on Allie for having the eating disorder or having issues with alcohol. Okay? There's no shame on that. The shame comes from exploiting that to grift off of your religious book. That's the shame in it. Like to exploit that as like see, I am just like you. I am so relatable. And then only to peddle this book and your podcast. You can say that's not what she's doing, but that's my opinion. She talks about Christians a lot in this book, but she doesn't talk about Jesus too much. So weird when you're trying to tell you that Jesus is the reason you're enough and Jesus loves you despite these things. She doesn't talk about that. She just says you're not enough. Culture says you are. Sucks to suck. You're not. So she talks about she got an eating disorder and she was like literally killing herself, which again is heartbreaking. As somebody who struggles myself, even to this day, I understand. I don't have the really anorexic or bulimic tendencies that it seems like Allie Beth had. But again, this was as a result of her boyfriend dumping her. Which again, I cried for 4 months when my boyfriend of a month in 9th grade dumped me. And he had asked me out on a bet. I cried so hard, even though I knew he didn't like me. So I get hurting and I get, feeling that pain. What I don't get is justifying an eating disorder and an alcohol addiction as a worldly thing And instead of seeking any kind of treatment, like you can have Jesus and a therapist too. You know that, right? Like it's not either or. That's like a false dichotomy. Why are we saying like, oh, you can have Jesus. Jesus is the reason for everything for you. This is like Jesus, cling to God. Or you could take pills and go to therapy. Like you can do both. I do both. I mean, I don't go to church anymore because I hated it. And I haven't found one that I like. But I have been looking at some Methodist churches and like the Methodist doctrine. They are very, apparently, according to their doctrine, I don't know, like church to church, it varies probably. According to their doctrine, they are very accepting of gay people, very accepting of, like, very involved in like politics, which I'm still a little. They're like, separation of church and state doesn't mean that we can't influence politics. And yeah, kind of what it does. But okay, so she basically talks about how this was just a cycle. Drinking, puking up what she eats. Like, it was just a cycle she was stuck in. She didn't feel good enough, so she drank more to numb the feelings, stuff like that. On page 20, we're getting somewhere. Only an hour and 8 minutes into filming. And we're on page 20 already. Out of 191. This is why this book has taken me so long to read, because I find problems with everything in this book. And like, I don't mean to. I really just wanted to read it and be like, okay, these were kind of the themes I saw that I didn't like. And I'm like, no, fucking every other sentence she says something problematic. And I'm like skipping out some problematic things for you guys. Like, I'm skipping past a couple pages and be like, okay, what's the most problematic? If you want to read this book, by the way, it's called You're Not Enough, and that's okay. I would recommend looking at your library. If you have Libby, if like your library does like ebooks, they offer an ebook and a audiobook. Mine is just, there's a lot of very long wait for it. So I say very long, it's like 18 people, but that's too long for me. Okay, so this is what she says. She says, oh, I believed that because that's the popular message today. You already have everything you need inside you to solve your problems. The idea that, well, outside tools like therapy, medication, meditation, yoga, hypnosis, or crystals can help unlock your innate potential for health and happiness. You are ultimately healed by the inner power you naturally possess. But this isn't reality. She says that the world teaches us that we have everything we need inside ourselves and then lists therapy and medication and yoga. Like, those are things that are very external. And she's like, well, they might help. They just help unlock. No, bitch. No. I've never thought about going to therapy. Like I said, I go to therapy weekly. I've never thought about going to therapy because I need my therapist to help me figure out what I have inside of me. Do you know how many different like breathing exercises she's taught me? How many different tools she's put in my tool belt? She's fixed a lot of shit in my life. Like, I didn't have the capability. Do I have the capability to fix those things? As in, like, am I able to if I was given the right tools? Yes. Do I innately have the right tools? No. And I don't think anybody says you innately know everything and have the right tools. I think Allie Beth was looking for an easy fix. And instead of the world providing that, because the world told her you have to work for it. And she's like, you're stuck in this cycle of always working. Yeah, because it's called growth. She decided that Jesus was easier because it's a cop-out where she doesn't have to be perfect because Jesus. That's my opinion of what this entire book is about. Because, like, medication, I do not produce my own serotonin. Actually, is Lexapro an SSRI? It is. So I do not produce my own serotonin. I do not have the biological means to mood stabilize myself. And like, I take anxiety medication. I take 3 medications very regularly, every day. 2 in the morning, 2 at night. I take the 1 twice. Medication isn't going to help me unlock the ability to... Medication produces the serotonin or reuptake. It's a serotonin a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, I think is what SSRI stands for. So it's like, I don't know, my doctor explained it to me once. I don't care about science. We've already talked about that. So like, it does what it's supposed to do. It keeps me from dying. So you're welcome. Like, that's like, my body does not have that ability. Yoga? And I know it's like, oh, meditation, yoga. Do you know how hard that shit is? I do yoga. I meditate. My husband won't meditate with me because he's too anxious. He's like, I can't stop my mind from working. Like, it makes me anxious to sit and think. Or like to sit and not think. And I'm like, well, that's a you problem, buddy. I love meditating because you like leave your body for a little. You don't actually leave your body. I don't like astral project. But I do just like forget about life, and like 30 minutes can seem like 30 seconds. Sometimes, unless you just keep thinking. In which case, like, you're fucked. But so it's just funny that she lists a bunch of external things. It says like they promise that you have like to unlock your innate potential. No, I've never heard that. That's an argument you're making with yourself. Like, you thought that you were looking for a quick fix, and you thought that taking medication would do it or going to therapy would do it. And then you realize it's actual work and you're not good enough at base, right? Like, you're starting something new. I'm not just going to say, oh, I'm not an artist. I'm not Van Gogh. So I'm just going to fucking give up. Like, that's the all or nothing mindset that Allie is coming to even the secular things with. And that looks like that's who she was in her early 20s. Yeah, of course you're not good enough. And also, good enough doesn't, like, being good enough does not mean you're the best at it. You know what I mean? Have you ever looked at something and been like the actual galaxy part of this, I'm like, good enough. Fuck it. It's not perfect by any means, but it's not awful. Don't tell me that it's awful or I will cry, because it took me a very long time to get it good enough for my standards. Like, good enough is stupid. Because good enough, like, to say, like, I don't know, to say, like, you're not good would be one thing, but, like, to say you're not good enough. Enough for what? Again, that fucking modifier. For what? I'm not good enough for what? For you? For your standards? For God's standards? In which case, like, why would God make me not good enough for his standards? And am I not good enough to die for? Because Jesus died for me, so that's all I need, right? Like, I'm good enough. Of course, not good enough to get into heaven in a biblical perspective, because that's like Jesus' job. But I was good enough to die for Jesus. If Jesus died for every sin of every person who would ever exist, even those who aren't Christians or don't believe in it, wouldn't that mean that, like, I'm good enough? Like, I'm not a good enough person by what standards? By the Bible's standards? Because, baby, you are not Christ-like. I can't imagine how somebody reads this book and goes, or writes this book and goes, this is fire. Like, this is the best. I am so good at this. Because she goes into it talking about how good she is at public speaking and about, like, praising herself for public speaking. But being bad at being a PR agent for social media. Like, make it make sense. There is no standard. There's no one standard that she's holding everybody to. She's holding them to the Allie Beth Stuckey standard. She's not holding them to God's standard. She's not holding them to the world's standard, because does the world really have standards? Like, don't murder, don't rape. Those are my standards. I mean, not all of them, obviously. But, like, generally, do not harm others. That's a great standard, but Allie Beth is not holding us to that standard, because she can spew harmful and hateful rhetoric. Transphobic rhetoric comes up in this. She can spew it because that's God's standard, because God is transphobic, according to Christians. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. They did. Not in so many words, but they said God believes this. Okay. So then she talks about how our bodies are not enough to heal themselves. Hi. What? She talks about this lady's fibromyalgia, which sounds awful. And I'm sorry to anybody who has actually been diagnosed with it. Like, that shit sounds terrifying, and not terrifying, but like terrible, but also like you're not in control of your own body, which sounds scary because like it could just decide to start shooting pain through your body. Like, that sounds awful. But so she talks about that. She's like, our bodies are, we're not even enough to heal ourselves. First of all, do you take Tylenol? I did that shit. Like, yes, somebody made the medicine, but I decided to take it, so I'm enough to get rid of my headache. Secondly, have you ever had a scab? Have you ever gotten a cut scabbed over? You know what that is? You know what that is? Your blood cells. Have you ever had a cold that got better? That's your white blood cells. You can thank them. So sometimes you are enough. Obviously, we can't cure our own cancer, but we can heal us great. We can stop a bruise. Hell, I broke my nose, and the bones fused itself back together. Not in the right place, but it fixed itself. And I'm sure that if I ever actually wanted to go get it fixed, they'd have to re-break my nose. But like, bones do that shit all the time. Like, toes, they fix themselves. You ever seen somebody with a toe cast? Because they don't really exist. So not only is this argument stupid, it's flawed. I have been filming for an hour and a half, and we are not even done with the first chapter. Guys, I'm so sorry. I hope you stick around, because what if we make this a 3-part series? What if we do the introduction and the first lie, and then we do the second and third lie, then we do the fourth, fifth, and conclusion? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, it keeps going on and on about how in college she was just doing her, like, I'm just doing me, and I'm doing whatever I think makes me happy. Like, the world doesn't, like, I don't know what secular morality she thinks is, but it does not do whatever makes you happy. What? People wouldn't go to work. She talks about work in a little bit in chapter 4, so we'll get there next video, but it's interesting, her take on it. Very misunderstood. She uses a Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez quote, an AOC quote, and it completely misrepresents it. So that's fun. I mean, and to her credit, Allie Beth does admit several times that she had a fear of insufficiency, that she was insecure, that she had, like, she was inadequate, or she had had feelings of inadequacy. Like, she admits that, but that's as far as we go in the like, self-aware category in the whole self-aware thing. Oh, this is bullshit to me. This part pissed me off. So basically, she said she went to the appointment and her doctor was like, "You're gonna die." And she said, "After that appointment, I got into my car, put my head in my hands, and broke down. I cried out to God with a million questions. How did I get here? How do I stop? Can I really let go of this? What will happen if I do? Are you going to be with me? Will you help?" And he did. After that day, the binge and purge cycle stopped. While I know this isn't everyone's experience with eating disorders, it was mine. God graciously and immediately gave me the grace to let go of the things I thought was holding me together. Of the thing I thought was holding me together. In reality, it was tearing me apart. I don't know. I'm not an eating disorder specialist by any means, but that doesn't sound like an eating disorder to me if you could just stop it by thinking about stopping it. God doesn't do that. Sorry. As somebody who is bipolar for the rest of my life, God doesn't take away mental illness just like that. I mean, can he? Probably, sure. If he is omniscient and, powerful. Will he? Probably not. Unlikely. Unlikely that he would do that if we are supposed to be left to our own devices and free will. Will God give you a therapist and medication? Absolutely. And when I say give you, I mean, did God knowingly create people who would create people who created people who learned science? Yes. Yes, that's how it works. Science and God are not opposites. As much as I hate science, like I don't hate science, but like as much as I don't have a scientifically minded brain, science and God are not opposites. Science explains God most of the time. Where it doesn't, that's where miracles happen. Like miracles don't happen every day. I don't know what you're facing now, whether it's more or less serious than what I faced in college. I can tell you for sure, you're not enough. Just like me, you don't have what it takes to heal yourself from the addiction, the rejection, or the depression. God doesn't heal depression. Because of shit like this. Okay, so I want to like talk about that though. Sorry, my husband's playing video games. I want to talk about that though. Like, if I had read this book, so I was in college in 2013. If this book had come out in 2013, I would have killed myself. Because shit like this and this propaganda that it spreads that God heals your depression. You can overcome depression. You're not enough. You're not good. But God can overcome that for you. I prayed once in my car and I was overcome from my eating disorder. Do you know how many times I prayed? Do you know how often I still pray? Oh, well, you just didn't have the faith. Okay, well then fucking kill me. This is harmful. This isn't just, oh, like, she's so delusional. This is harmful rhetoric. How she addresses anxiety, depression, eating disorders, any kind of mental health is harmful. Because if the wrong person reads this shit, who wants to be biblical, who wants to be a good Christian, reads this, I'm telling you, it's doing exactly the opposite of what you think it's doing. People who have never actually dealt with this shit and have been like, oh, well, once I was really, really sad, but I prayed and God made it better. Like, that's not depression, babe. I'm sorry, like, more power to you that happened. Great. I question whether or not you were actually, not whether or not you had an eating disorder, but the motivation behind it, right? Like, was it really a disorder or was it like, were you looking for attention? Which is fine. And like, was this an active choice that you were doing and then you decided to stop making that active choice? And I hate saying that because I hate questioning anybody's mental health crisis because like, I don't know. And like somebody who is trying to advocate for mental health, questioning somebody else's mental health journey is not great because like, I don't want to set the precedent that people fake mental illness, you know? This is how fucking delusional Allie Beth Stuckey is. The reason we, a generation living in the most prosperous era, in the most prosperous country in the world, still can't find fulfillment is because we're looking for it in the wrong places. Does money equal fulfillment to you? Just asking. Because while like technically yes, we might be the most rich country in the world. Number one, we have the most billionaires for sure because we're the biggest country. Also, did you know 99% of our citizens aren't rich, aren't prosperous? I mean, when I say rich, but like I don't even know the statistic for how many people are living below the poverty line, but it's a lot. How many houseless individuals are in the United States in 2019 or 2020 when you were writing this book? Let's see. Education. Did you know we rank really low in the world's education? Is that prosperous? Oh, no. You would say yes because we're not teaching the world's education. We're teaching God's education. Interesting. Did you know our infant mortality rate is actually pretty high for a developed country? Just a lot. Like, they're prosperous? Sure, we have money. We have a big military. That's about it. We don't have great relationships with half of the world, so. But that's just how, like, far up America's ass Christian conservatives are. We're in the best country, in the most prosperous time in the world. I'm sorry, you're a millennial, babe. You've said it several times, and she will go on to say she has, like, a podcast, or she had like a blog thing or podcast like called Millennial or Conservative Millennial, I think is what it was called. Like, you're a millennial, like, we have less than what our parents had, right? Or the first generation in a century, actually, I'm pretty sure, to have less than what our parents had. So just thought, very prosperous we are, yes. So then she goes on to say, like, what is our soul begging for? Jesus. Great. And then she says, when Jesus saves us, we are made new creations and children of God. As such, our goal is to glorify him in everything we do. We don't have to wonder what it's all about anymore. This is it. In exchange for the confusion and exhaustion that comes with trying to be enough, he gives us peace and relief. She never actually clarifies what it looks like. Like, so many people are like, your identity is in Christ. But, like, what does that mean? And then they'll go on to say, like, I'm a mom. I'm a homemaker. Oh, so your identity isn't in Christ. It's being a mom and a homemaker. And that's fine. No. You're the only one. You're contradicting the arguments you make. Like, nobody cares how you identify. Like, people being like, oh, they, that, blah, blah, blah. Like, there are people who, like, identify as, like, trans species, which is not something that, like, whatever. Like, I just choose not to associate with those people if that's not something that fits my moral compass and moral values. Not saying that, like, you can just decide that somebody who says they are a woman isn't. Like, and I know that's, like, the slippery slope fallacy. Like, well, if you can say one, why can't you say the other? And there's just so fucking nuanced. Okay, then she talks about some lady named Cecily getting pregnant and then pregnant again. I don't know. I don't really care about this story at all. Basically, that she's glad that she became a mom, but it was hard, and Jesus. So, the cult is self-affirmation, self-help gurus, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. Like, it's funny that she talks about social media lying the top of charts of Amazon and the shelves of Barnes and Noble. Baby, Barnes and Noble. Like, you have a podcast, you have a book, and you're going to sit here and call out people with podcasts and books telling you how to find your identity. Podcast, book about how to find your identity. Pot, kettle, hello. Like, I, like, don't love a lot of self-help books because I think a lot of them are very grifty, and that's fine. That they're just not for me. If they're for you, great. But these like the Christian evangelical circles have so many, like, rules for thee, but not for me. Like, don't read self-help books unless it's mine. Baby, even Christian women believe this. Yeah. Even Christian women are trying to find themselves. So you're going to make money off of them. And of course, like, money isn't the only reason people, like, make content. Like, I'm clearly not making this kind of content for money because I'm not making any money off of it, but I'm still doing it. And hopefully eventually I will make money off of it so that I can feed my child, so that I can do this while he goes to preschool, so I can afford to send him to preschool. I can afford to send him to preschool with, like, a job at Starbucks or whatever too. But, like, I don't want to go back to Starbucks. Okay? I've been there. I don't want to do it again. Anyway, oh my God, she goes on. This is super triggering, and I cannot talk about this because I will film for another 45 minutes. She goes on to talk about abortion and about how basically, like, women have begun opening up about their abortions and making it not such a taboo thing, and that's bad. We shouldn't do that. Against Planned Parenthood. These are, like, arguments we've all heard, right? Like, a million times. This is nothing new. She probably says this shit on her Instagram. Why you would pay for her book to tell you how horrible. Like, is this a shame kink? Like, are you, like, a humiliation kink seeker, Allie? And that's fine. Please have at it. Like, I will do whatever for you. Just kidding. But, like, what is this? What is this, like, we love getting off on being, like, invalidated? So basically, it's a cult of self-affirmation, because the Christian church has never and will never be associated with cults, right? The cult of self-affirmation is a bad thing because it tells us that we are still worthy if we get abortions. So Oh, then she goes on a rant, which is even more of a rant that I cannot go down, about like gender conversion, like therapy and like hormones, and a very transphobic rant. Then she goes against polygamy, which is funny because that's like half of the Bible. Weird. We take what we want out of the Bible. Oh, okay. Here's the thing. This whole thing is kind of to go on a rant about secular morality. And here's the thing. We all of us, we live by secular morality. If you're in a developed country that is like not an oligarchy or like a religious whatever, like some Middle Eastern countries probably are very like Muslim dominant and probably live on Muslim theology and like morality is the word I'm looking for. Muslim morality, which is fine, maybe, depending on how harmful, like if it doesn't harm other people, But like if it does, that's an issue. We should address it, and by we I mean like the people of that. Whatever. It's so nuanced. Anyway, in America and Western cultures, because she's talking to us. She's talking about prosperous nation, so we know she's talking about America, right? We live by secular morality. Just so you know. She said, this is how morality within this cult of self-affirmation works. The only standard of right and wrong is how you feel. In the cult, there is nothing inherently good about fidelity or exclusive commitment to a single person. All that matters is that people are happy. This is why, for many people, the cult of self-affirmation is much more appealing than normal religion. She acts like there's no church for atheists. You know that, right? Like there's no church for like liberal people. Like it's not a religion. Self-help, like the self-help genre is not a religion. Just so you know. It encourages people to do what feels good and removes restrictions and responsibilities to others. So, no, it doesn't. I would argue that it actually like the number one rule is don't hurt other people. Right? If you want to be polygamous, great, as long as, or polyamorous is, the better term. If you want to be polyamorous, great, as long as boundaries are clearly communicated and not crossed. Your partners are all safe and consenting adults. The end. Great. Okay, so what part of morality says do whatever the fuck you want? Because if that were like a thing that people did, I'm sure. I mean, there are people who do that, right? They're called murderers and R words and P words. They do what they want without regard for what culture as a whole and our legal system and morals say about it. And some of them, that's funny. There are so many people, like the crusades happen, but there are also so many cults who say like, God told me this. And they're going to say, oh, that wasn't really God. They thought it was. Just the way you think that you're talking to God when you talk to God. Like, it's so frustrating. The like, well, my interpretation and my God is what makes sense, and this is what my God wants. But the God you're following is a little bit different than mine and says some crazy things to you. Like, it's called mental illness, babe. Like, the people who are like, oh, God said this, I heard God's voice. And like, what if they did? Because the God you describe is a God that like tells like they're his followers to murder their sons. So just a thought that like maybe the crazy ones are the actual ones hearing God. Maybe you're more radical because you conform to society's laws. You're not murdering people or slaughtering lambs and putting them above your door. Oh wait, Jesus fulfilled the law. So many circular arguments. Okay, so she thinks we're a cult that meets up. The self-affirmation cult just meets up. If like you want to better yourself, come to church. Should I make merch? I have no followers, but I'll make merch that says like the Church of Self-Affirmation or the cult something. Cult leader. I'm a cult leader. She goes on to say that the cult says that you deserve everything. You don't have to work for it, which is not at all true of anything that ever happens and is a very delusional take on any part, Christian or not. The word entitled, she just kind of uses that boomer thing of like, millennials are so entitled. Oh, okay. You're entitled to think that you can write a book, and we're seeing how that's going. Oh, and then she goes after moms, which I fucking hated, because Christians go after moms. Because being a mom is a very lonely job sometimes, and is a very, like, isolating experience, and it's very, like, you're desperate to find people and do things that include you. And I know that because I'm a stay-at-home mom, so fuck off, Allie Beth Stuckey. You're not even a stay-at-home mom. You're not doing what God calls you to do. You work. You have a podcast. You wrote a book. You work. You make money off of it. You work. Oh, and then she said, like, sure, you can go get your nails done, get a babysitter, do stuff for yourself, but, like, don't forget Jesus. The mentality surrounding our break matters. Ugh. Like, yeah, you need to rest, but make sure you're doing it in a God-honoring way. Okay, and then so she says, the cult of self-affirmation encourages us to grab hold of our lives so we don't lose ourselves in motherhood. But when we follow Christ, we are never at risk of losing ourselves because our identity is eternally found in Him. Who we really are isn't some mystery we need to solve or path we need to follow. Our sole aim is to honor God by gratefully executing the tasks He's put before us with His help. I don't know about you. I was raised in church. I grew up in church. I was a very devoted Christian. I went to Bible college to be a missionary. I still questioned who the fuck I was all the time. What did God put me on the earth for? If I felt a calling to preach, and God apparently told me not to do that. So what do? Who am I? Like, that's a very normal, very Christian, very human thing. And then she just goes on to say, like, we just need to be worshiping 24/7, which is not realistic or relatable at all. We have reached the second myth in this book. Myth number 2, you determine your truth. I'm going to end the video here. I have to pee so bad. But I've also been filming for an hour and 46 minutes, which means this will probably be like at least an hour and 20-minute video. An hour 15. So I don't want to keep you guys here forever. So if you liked this video, please give a thumbs up. So like the like button if you liked it. If you are watching and it is not your first video and you do kind of enjoy who I am and what I have to say, please click subscribe. That is an amazing way to support me and my channel and this message. Please, if you've stuck around this long, share the video, give it a comment. That really helps with engagement. I really want to grow. And I know the first 1,000 followers, subscribers are the hardest to get. And we're 0.03% of the way there. So we're trucking along. So go ahead and do all those good things if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. I'm not forcing you. I'm not forcing you to. I'm not your mom. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I will see you next week for a couple more infuriating chapters of this book. Okay, bye.